Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society of Geneva. We seek to meet you wherever you are on your journey and invite you to be part of this congregation in which we draw wisdom from all the world's religions, balanced with the insights of modern science. We seek to build a diverse, beloved community even within these virtual walls, and hope to inspire and accompany one another as we act for peace and justice in our larger world. Yes, we set the office on fire. Again. Yes, human resources went ballistic. Again. None of it was my fault. I just want that said at the outset. None of it was my fault. It all started out quite innocently, which is, I'm pretty sure, what everyone says. But after the unfortunate incident from the previous season, which is exactly how it's described in my personnel file for what it's worth, I was still taking it easy since I'd spent most of the past January in traction. Happily, by late spring, my stitches were all out, and the facilities guys had hooked me up with a remarkably posh new office and lab space below the local IKEA store in town name redacted. As you may recall, my job with IKEA had been dramatically different the year prior. Then I'd been one of the annual hires, one of the hundreds of annual hires. I was an SWS. That's seasonal warehouse staff, but more commonly known as swish. And when I wasn't on the rescue party trying to find shoppers who had strayed from the great maze we call the lazy river that wound through all of the stores, my days had been mostly filled with furniture assembly. Basically, I was one of a couple dozen college kids spending their days putting together clip-on, Doxtra, Extorp, Malm, and Kallax furniture with nothing but elbow grease and teeny tiny Allen wrenches. I'd been promoted after noting a flaw in Erica's design for a toy for teens, the Whizzing Blades of Death. I am required by binding arbitration to say that that toy is much safer now and also has a different name, but for NDA reasons I can't tell it to you. But that is how I got inducted, or abducted, as my teammates now say, into what may or may not be the local branch of the multinational Christmas toy factory that are hidden securely deep beneath the hundreds of IKEA stores scattered all over the world. Really is kind of a clever front. Anyway, I had been promoted into the role of Feasibility and Testing Officer, the FAT, in the Experimental Laboratory Fabricator, the ELF, and as my now colleague Erica likes to remind me, that makes me the Fat Elf. Har, har, har. She's very funny. Anyway, there we were in the middle of design season. And on the morning in question, I'd come in early to update the paperwork for our project load for the season. And by early, I mean before noon, because the team did tend toward nocturnal when it came to working hours. And it's not that weird. The store that was many, many floors above us closed at 9 p.m., which meant after that time, we didn't have to explain all of the explosions. And that's why I was a little surprised stepping off the high-speed restricted elevator. All the lights were on. Rounding the corner, I could see that the lab was lit up too. And this was entirely unprecedented in my limited tenure. Either everyone was early, no chance, or they were all very late. And to be honest, I was probably holding my breath as I pushed the door to the lab open. The table near the door was covered with half-empty containers of Asian takeout, a mostly empty box of donuts, maybe 1,000 coffee cups, and all of the associated debris. Signs of a misspent evening. In the center of the room, near a large cleared out area, the team stood, backs to me. Josh, Erica, Michael, Ivana, and Jericho were apparently mesmerized by what looked very much like a large Christmas tree, maybe 12 feet tall. Peering closer, there may have been some decorations on it too. But honestly, it was hard to tell because the tree was on fire. My roommate, a volunteer firefighter, might have described it as, quote, fully involved. Just me, the team, and a very merrily burning Christmas tree. Yeah, pretty much just a normal day at the office. The sweet scent of pine and tar was strong, but not overpowering, and the lively snap, crackle, and pop of pine needles, and the rather considerable amount of heat the thing was throwing off, the tree made a very impressive display. Fortunately, it seemed that the lab exhaust system was working just fine, though I did make a note to check and see who had disabled the sprinkler system. This is what writers call foreshadowing. Anyway, I'm not ashamed to admit that I was tempted to grab one of the huge fire extinguishers, but I remembered that this was hardly the weirdest thing I'd seen in the lab. So instead of flapping around in a panic, I left. I left the lab and went down the hall to the kitchen in search of the giant gleaming Italian espresso maker, affectionately known as Mecca, a bizarrely out-of-place piece of elegance that the team had won in a company raffle several years back. And by the time I had my own sweet little cup of ambrosia to sip on, the spell of Christmas flambe back in the lab had apparently broken, and Josh and Ivana pushed into the room. So, what's new? I asked in a tone that I was very confident was completely normal. Josh nodded at me with a cheerful uh-oh, which is his normal speech, and started to work on his own espresso. But Ivana turned to me and said, "Oh, you know, same old." I gestured vaguely in the direction of the lab with my espresso. "Oh, yeah, self-lighting tree," she said. "That's a bit on the nose, isn't it?" I replied. "Well, yeah," she laughed. We were working on a wire-free tree. We'd started with these new colored LED things, but I think Erica really wanted that old-time look. She wanted actual candles. You know, fire. So we came up with an on-off system because the candles are hard to reach when they're high up and around the back. And then what happens when you forget to blow them out before bed, right? Could start a fire. "So I see," I said. She said, "Truth be told, this one was better than the first round. That one exploded." I may have opened and closed my mouth a few times. She continued, "We still have some kinks to work out." "Fine, yeah, whatever," I said, "but I thought we were supposed to be working on batteries." She pulled a face, looked wistfully toward the lab. "Oh, battery-powered igniters," I said. She shrugged. "It's those new lithium prototypes. They're very unstable." "Aren't we using those things in the electronic pets?" I asked. "What are those called?" "Tamagotchi?" Yeah, those are fun. The old batteries didn't last, and the electronic pets kept dying when we swapped batteries. So, obviously, new batteries, right? But the circuit is throwing a lot of EMF, does really weird things to the electronics. I thought we had a stable mix, but I guess not. Definitely want to get that sorted out, though. I can't have those keychains bursting into flames now, can we? Josh looked at her and said, "Uh-oh." We all nodded along with him. That would not be great. I spent the rest of the morning back in the lab with Michael and Erica disposing of the remains of the self-lighting tree. In truth, there wasn't that much, just heaps of white ash that blew around as we tried to sweep it up. That and a light layer of ashy dust covering most of everything in the lab. It took a while to clean up. When Jericho found me later, I was dirty, way too dry, and was more than a little grumpy. But the extra large bucket of iced coffee they handed me pretty much made my whole day. I like Jericho. Jericho's good. Jericho provides. Jericho also wanted some advice. "What's a Furby?" I asked, slurping on my oversized straw. "I don't recognize that on the project charts." Jericho shrugged. "It's a nickname. Maybe it's just better to show you." In their office, Jericho handed me a stuffed animal. Big eyes, soft fur, squishy body, but posable, with jointed arms and legs. It was adorable. I squeezed it. "Are those beans in there? Like a beanbag?" Jericho shrugged. "Beans are too big, but yeah, it's the same filler that's in the bussin' beanbag chair." I poked the little face. "Why does this look so familiar?" I asked. Jericho looked abashed. "Well, you know how I love that movie Gremlins, right?" "Wait, Gremlins? Little monsters that turn homicidal? You made evil stuffies for Christmas?" Jericho took the fuzzy brown and white toy from my hands with a sniff. These are just prototypes. The production run has several different shapes ready to go, not just these. There are lots and lots of cute animal babies. Kids will love them." They paused a moment to clearly emphasize my wrongness with a glare, and then continued, "But what I wanted to get your opinion on was something else. You know the vocalizer thing I've been working on?" I said, "Yeah, voice commands and stuff like that." They said, "Exactly. You say a word and the toy would respond. Maybe it would tell a joke, dance, laugh, fart, whatever. It'd be cute." I nodded. "Something's not right. Look." They stood the "not a gremlin" up on the desk. The doll's eyes opened. The legs moved as if it were taking a small step. Then it began to make noises. Weird noises. A continuous stream of burbling sounds that was almost language, but not anything I recognized. Jericho said, "See? Anyway, the boards totally test out, but then it does this." They touched the doll's stomach. "Furby," the toy said. "Furby?" I said. "Well, that explains the nickname." "Furby, Furby, Furby," the toy repeated before lapsing back into the almost baby babble. Then the doll started to dance, mostly just up and down. Surprised, I laughed, and Jericho laughed, and Furby laughed. "See? Interactive," said Jericho. And I said, "And weird. How many of these do you have?" "A dozen. Here, watch." Jericho set the dolls up, switched them on. The dolls, arranged in a rainbow of different colors, began to interact. One would burble, another would respond, a third would twitch. Then one said the magic word, "Furby." And suddenly all 12 synchronized, chanting the word "Furby, Furby, Furby." I said. "Deeply unsettling," Jericho said. "The vocalizers have been making those really weird noises ever since I soldered those new batteries to the boards that Josh made. Put two of them together and we can't get them to shut up." Jericho sighed. "I don't know what to do at this point. You could leave them as is, but the design is supposed to talk to you, not babble at you. I had several great jokes loaded up in there. 2 different dance routines. I really don't want to scrap the design. I'm positive this will totally be a hot item. Kids are going to want them. But I don't think we're going to hit the timeline." I picked up a purple Totally Not a Gremlin, tousled its pointy ears. It burbled and squished around in my hand. "Well, they are really cute. Maybe we just wait on the talkie version. Just go with the beanbag version. Beanie bag type babies." "You mean take the guts out?" Jericho asked. Yeah, why not? I said. Like you said, I bet little kids would still love them. I laughed. Jericho laughed. The Furbies, however, did not. They started chanting, Furby, Furby, Furby. Hey, that's pretty cool, I said. Glowing eyes. Jericho snorted. Glowing? No, their eyes don't glow. I pointed. Huh, that's new, Jericho said. Hey, is it warm in here? A thought occurred to me right then. A bad thought. I said, when you said you had to solder the batteries to the boards, which batteries did you use? Ivana's new batteries? The ones from the tree? Jericho looked at me. We looked at the dolls. The dolls chanted back at us. Furby, Furby, Furby. And just then, a finger of smoke curled out of the head of one. Uh-oh, said Jericho. No one was hurt by the Furby experiment. The experience with the tree had been enough warning, so we escaped without so much as a light crisping. All 12 of the prototypes, however, were tragically lost. Each one had popped off in sequence like a Roman candle display. Very impressive. Lucky for us, Michael and Erica came on the run with those massive extinguishers, and the four of us put out the blaze before it got very far. By the end of the week, the facilities team had cleared out the debris, washed the place down, repainted, and installed new furniture in Jericho's office. Those guys are wizards for sure. The Twinberries, the HR team that had promoted me last year, showed up to ask everyone questions about the missing sprinkler system. While a battery backup was, quote, a wonderful innovation, everyone was forced to agree that using our special prototype batteries in that system was not a great idea. We were all very apologetic, and everyone received a very stern letter with lots of capitalized words. In related news, we did finally get that battery issue resolved, and we're proud that the lithium batteries are now pretty common these days. Very few explode, which is a great relief to all. Sadly, the Furby project had to be tabled. Battery issues aside, the babbling turned out to be a peculiar dialect of ancient Aramaic, and management decided that perhaps, quote, self-immolating devil dolls, while promising, perhaps needed a bit more work. In the meantime, that year's big push was cute little stuffies. Ours came in all sorts of baby animal shapes and all had the same squishy bean-filled bodies. So naturally, someone started calling them beanie babies. I'm told they were very popular. The vocalizers did eventually work. Combined with a better actuator, we got our dolls to tell jokes, laugh, dance, and yes, even fart. Sesame Street was apparently very impressed, and the big guy said that this was a great partnership, and so that's how Tickle Me Elmo happened. I'm pretty sure none of them ever exploded. The self-lighting Christmas tree was something we worked on for a couple more years, but we only ever delivered one long after I'd left. Some guy named Fox up in New York City. I'm sure that worked out fine, too. The rest of the year went pretty well. Josh got promoted. We were all really happy for him. It was a big party. And that fall, we got a new intern, Julia. I won't spoil it, but, well, let's say Julia was a brilliant addition to the team. There really is a lot more to tell, but we'll have to hold that for next year. Until then, Merry Christmas. I have a closing prayer for us this morning. It comes to us from Reverend Maureen Killeran. She writes, not gold, not myrrh, not even frankincense would I have for you this season, but simple gifts. The ones that are hardest to find, the ones that are perfect, even for those who have everything, if such there be. I would, if I could, have for you the gift of courage, the strength to face the gauntlets only you can name, and the firmness in your heart to know that you, yes, you, can be a bearer of the quiet dignity that is the human glorified. I would, if by my intention I could make it happen, have for you the gift of connection, the sense of standing on the hinge of time, touching past and future, standing with certainty that you, yes, you, are the point where it all comes together. I would, if wishing could make it so, have for you the gift of community, a nucleus of love and challenge to convince you in your soul that you, yes, you, are the source of light in a world too long believing in the dark. Not gold, not myrrh, not even frankincense would I have for you this season, but simple gifts, the ones that are hardest to find, the ones that are perfect, even for those who have everything, if such there be. Happy solstice, Merry Christmas, and happy holidays. And now, as we prepare to leave this place, continue your journey in love. Care for one another and care for this, our earth. Do justice and make peace. And as you go, know that whatever taste or touch you've had in this time and virtual place of hope, joy, love, peace, that goes with you out into the world. We are different for having spent this time together. So remember, live boldly and with thanksgiving. And when and wherever you go, go in peace.